Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello everybody, welcome to our TGIF Product Owner episode this week with Rebecca Sear. Hey Rebecca, welcome back.
Hi, thank you for having me.
So product owner, of course, it is Friday after all, and we only want fun topics on Fridays. And to get us started, we'll talk about great POs in a minute. To get us started, let's start with the funnest of all, the anti-patterns. Of course, we want to avoid, but we need to be aware of. So share with us, Rebecca, what might have been potentially the worst product owner anti-pattern you've witnessed in your career.
Yeah, gosh. So I think the one yesterday I talked a little bit about the disempowered PO, and I think that is a problem, but a worse one that I've encountered is the overly technical PO. And what I mean by that is perhaps they're an architect or they started as a developer in this space and they have very strong feelings about the direction of the product. The anti-pattern that you're actually seeing in this person, because I have seen cases where a technical PO is really useful depending on the product, where the team can really speak to them and they're all speaking the same language. Where it goes bad is they come in so directive, so little latitude. I've already spec'd out and mocked up how I want this done, and I just need you to finish painting the house that I already built. And that is so disempowering for the team. And the worst case where I've seen it, I worked at a company where they didn't really have classic product owners in this sense. So our air quotes product owner for this particular piece of work was an architect. The architect kept trying to explain what they wanted. The team didn't understand. Once the team did understand, they didn't agree with it. They didn't understand why we were building things this way. It was like this constant friction. And, all I could say was, why did we have to tell them exactly how to do it? Why couldn't we sort of spec out what is the main problem and provide the insight that you have? This happened to be sort of in banking. So of course, there are things in place that there's different requirements we have to meet. There's all kinds of compliance. These are great things for you as the architect, product owner to know. But the fact that you came in with your diagrams, with your plan, build exactly this, it fell so flat. And forget just disempowering the team. That's a huge bummer. But the team literally didn't understand and had a hard time building it. And then there was constant friction because the architect was coming back going, you've done this wrong. And it's like, what? Well, I don't think we understand. So there was just this constant, it was like, oh my God, we could have saved a lot of time, I think, if the team designed it in a way that made sense to them.
Pardon me. That story reminds me of why ChatGPT can never be a challenge for product owners and developers. Because if one understands something, the other doesn't, and then the way we communicate with ChatGPT is, of course, through language. And if we can't even understand each other when we have, highly interactive, non-verbal, whiteboard communication with each other, all hope is lost when it comes to translating that into text. Right. So yeah, good luck with that. But there is one thing that you shared about that story that I wanted to highlight that can be very, very useful here, which is product owners can bring in what is the problem we're trying to solve from a business perspective, but they don't even need to bring in all the requirements. I mean, that's what the team is there for, right? Like somebody from compliance might come and visit the team on that particular day when they're planning something that is critical for compliance and bring their own thoughts and possibly their questions, which will sound stupid to developers, but will then trigger them to think about different things they would not otherwise. Sure. And I think that this idea of the whole team working together in what at the Product Owner Summit, we called it cross-functional product ownership. This idea of all of us working together to figure out what needs to be done can only be accomplished if somebody brings the problem and others are supposed to bring in the questions and the solution. When somebody brings the problem and the solution and the others are, to quote a very old saying, just a pair of hands, then we're lost, we're doomed, because that's never going to be the case, right? We need to enable and even amplify the creativity and the questions and the curiosity that the team and even stakeholders bring to the conversation.
Yeah.
So, of course, not all product owners are bad, though, Rebecca, and I'm sure you have a great product owner story to share with us. So let's go there. What was potentially the best product owner you've ever worked with?
Yeah, I've definitely had far more good experiences than I've had bad. One that I wanted to share was I had one at a particular company where this was an enterprise product and the users were a kind of an analyst. And so the team was very deep in trying to understand what the analyst's needs were, whereas the product people who were working often with sales were also trying to understand the enterprise person buying this software, who is different from the analyst. So the head of the department that would buy this particular set of software has ideas of what they need, and then there's the users in their day-to-day, and that's who my team was really in with. So they wanted to get more access to how are they interacting with these particular features? When we put in this way of sorting or that or this dashboard, what are they thinking of that? And so the product owner worked with the research team to set up some customer interviews that the team could literally watch live. And so the way she did it, which was it was so fun for the team, they actually grew to really love these, is the meeting would be happening with the customer. So the researcher is speaking to the customer and having them walk through the product and speak out loud what they're seeing and doing and why they're looking in various areas. Meanwhile, the team was all on a Zoom call observing, including the product owner, and live reacting to what they're seeing. So when a question was asked, how would you do XYZ? And they answer something surprising, the team could all go, what? Why didn't they use this method that and then they could chat about it. And what I loved is not only did the product owner make this happen for the team, but she was very involved in that conversation because she cared what the team thought and what their expectations were of various products. So together, they could leave that discussion and have some ideas on either the direction of a feature or some quick things they had to adjust. There was a lot of sort of change that would come out of those and a lot of quick wins. That was the biggest thing to me. They might not come out with huge feature ideas, but they came out with a punch list that solved a lot of small problems in very short time. So another thing that same product owner did that I loved is, I can't remember exactly what the schedule was, but the team worked in 2-week sprints. And because we had to have our sprint review, say first thing in the morning because of the various people that needed to arrive. And then there was a bit of a gap before we would do planning. Let's call it an afternoon or something. I can't recall exactly. This just sort of happened in the scheduling because of who we wanted to be able to attend the reviews. And then did the team want to go immediately into this? So there ended up being something like a dead time between review and planning. And rather than, we had some trials on, should we pull up planning? Oh, that's hard for everyone. It's been a rough week. We kind of want the break, or can we postpone that till Monday, whatever it was. She said, okay, team, if you crush your commitment, if you did what you said you would do, then that time is yours. And you get to do whatever you want to the product. You can use it as learning time if you want it, or you can make all these little tweaks to the product that drive you crazy, but that haven't been a high enough priority, which were often these little things that would come out of these user meetings. And she said, I don't have to approve it. It just needs to be FYI. And if there's some crazy reason I have to stop you from doing it, then I will. But generally speaking, just let me know that you want to turn this button a different color, whatever you're doing, whatever little things, and you can go ahead and do it. The team found that so satisfying, not only because it helped them get rid of all these little bugs that just annoyed them, But it was very motivating for them to complete their commitment, because if they didn't, if anything carried over, they of course had to complete it in that little window. And that felt stressful and disappointing. And so it was really motivating for them to complete their commitment and then be able to have this playtime, which we would also sometimes use for various professional development activities too.
That's great. And that empowerment and motivation can really go very far, because that's when we are at our most creative and productive. Let's not forget that part. So great example, and a great intuition that product owner had about how to help the team.
Yeah.
That was a great set of stories, Rebecca. Unfortunately, we're getting close to the end. But before we go, where can people find out more about you and the work that you're doing?
Sure. I'm on LinkedIn and you can see me there. That's really the only socials that I'm on publicly.
There you go. And LinkedIn it is. I'll put the link in the show notes so that people can go find out more about Rebecca's work. And why not ask a few follow-up questions? Let's all help each other learn and grow. Rebecca, it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much for your generosity with your time and your knowledge.
Thank you so much for having me. This was really fun.
One more week of the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast is over, but there's a lot more we have to share. We have developed our own membership site where you find a community of active and engaged Scrum Masters. In this site, you get access to exclusive content and get to interact with us, your podcast hosts, as well as the best Scrum Masters in the world. So join us at scrummasterpodcast.com and keep this podcast free of advertising. See you next week for one more full week of Scrum Master tips and tricks. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.